Support Pro Play Games on Patreon.
Welcome back, Battle Spirits players. It's your boy Yeehaw Yadam, and we're going to be doing some more Battle Spirits gameplay commentary. For this video, we have the classic white with the new spice, the purple. Carl is going to be playing the white this time, where George is going to be playing the purple control curse deck. Starting off with a bullet ray into a card into the burst zone. Not a bad start for the white. Sometimes it feels like early burst is kind of a hefty cost, and we're going to go ahead and see that with a Pegasus Scion. George starting off with the early Dark Knight Aglovale, just a big curse dude. It has a very interesting effect that says draw a card if this card has a soul coronet when destroyed. So this is kind of like a weenie that just wants to get destroyed to draw a card to cycle. Then we're going to finally see a Nexus from George's side. And by finally, this do be turn 2, right? So he's going to be finally seeing his purple Smoke Valley. You know, if he would have had that turn 1, he probably would have slammed that down as opposed to the Dark Algovale. But the purple Smoke Valley states draw a card when one of your effects destroyed one of your opponent's spirits via the reduction of course, right? So when they do the classic Baculus Curse Dragon combo, this will allow you to draw a card. So purple in general seems to be a deck that, at least there's multiple ways of building it. There's an aggressive curse variant and a destruction based core control, I guess is what I would call it. And this seems more akin to the core control, using the curse as an early base. So he's going to go ahead and block with the Algovale. Since he has a soul coronet, he will draw a card. Trading with the bullet, we'll go ahead and ramp the purple player here. Kind of scary. Pegasus going to go in, no defense, and then he's going to go swing with the Otter. He's going to go ahead and get that again. So he just ramped 2 cores that turn, but he drew a card. So let's see where George can take it from here on this turn. He does have a little bit more cores to work with, and you know, purple does want its cores. They have a lot of really good removal, defense, and in general, it seems like the deck has a lot of things going for it in the right direction. We'll see another Aglovale come down here. Or I think this actually may be a Dark Lancer. Sorry, they do look a little bit similar. They're both holding these huge lances. The purple cards look awesome. When summoned, draw a card. Really, really solid. This is a great card to Starblast draw off of, but it seems like the white player does not have a Starblast draw in the burst zone. Can attach a lot of our cores here onto our Lancer and then pass. So our Lancer currently 6,000 attack shadow card. But this is a kind of scary little zone. He does play something that bursts as well, so you kind of have to play around what you would think is an ice shield here. Kind of have to think that there is some potential for that. So even if you do want to go for lethal here, right? Let's say you summoned 4 specific characters onto the board and we're able to try to go for it. You have to be cognizant of the fact that if you do get ice walled or ice shielded, you'll be having a bad time. So Carlos goes onto his turn, summons a Goddess Ear. Yeah, hopefully I said that right. So the goddess comes down and selects one of your spirits with the when the spirit blocks effect and place a core from the void onto it. So it kind of is a pseudo ramp in a sense. When it comes down, it gets like a core back, and it also just makes it just a little bit stronger. Goes back to George's side. He plays down the castle, and the castle otherwise known as Netherworld Depths, and he passes it back to the white. So Netherworld Depth states that draw a card when one of your opponent's spirits is exhausted. Right now, this can happen either when they attack or when they block. So this card is a very, very versatile, and for every single time a spirit attacks or blocks, you will be giving your opponent some sort of advantage. So far, 0 advantage has been given, but we will have a Netherworld counter. Or at least I'll try to keep one in my head. It goes back to Carlos' turn. He has a little bit more cores to work with, and let's see if he kind of can push the tempo to his side. George kind of chilling right now, just playing a bunch of cards that say draw a card, take it slow, have one big blocker, and then have a ton of cores that if he needs to, he has enough to just be able to stop a potential lethal. Goes into Carlos. Carlos goes ahead and uses one of his removal options, and then he's going to just swing it up. He's going to go ahead and trigger the Netherworld Depths, going to go ahead and draw a card. That's 1 card drawn. He's going to take a moment to think. He does take this core. He declares now with the Goddess Ire. Draw another card. So Netherworld has now officially plussed him by 1. Takes the core as well, and he's going to trigger his Ice Shield. What a beautiful looking card. Going to go ahead and pay the bonus 4 to go ahead and stop it, ramp, and then go back to his turn. He says, and no, my go. So go ahead and summon the Belgor of the Dark World 7. Wow, what a name. This card states he is immortal, cost of 4 or 5 during either attack step. When summoned, select one of your opponent's exhausted spirits that cost 4 or fewer and destroy. So he's going to come down and immediately Go ahead and probably remove that. He's going to go ahead and summon a Lancer as well and then pass it back. No card in the burst zone here, which is very important to note from the white player's side. Yeah, maybe that's not a... Maybe that isn't a Dark World 7. Maybe it's a Dark Knight Mordred. Sometimes the art and the angle of these cards is a little bit difficult for me to still kind of grasp. But it looks like either way, it didn't trigger that effect. I do believe it is a Dark World 7. But he didn't do the destruction effect. Or did he? Yeah, he did. Ear is in the trash. And it's going to go back to his opponent. Oh, he does place a card into the burst zone. Hasn't finished his turn yet. I guess he was just talking to someone. And then deciding what he wants to go from there. So, again. Plays another Netherworld. Oof. The depths are coming, brother. We will be drawing a lot of cards. And that's something that's really nice about purple. It seems to be highly consistent because of their very, very powerful nexuses. There's a couple cards in the game that do exist in order to counter it, aka Rocket City and or Burning Force, which are just good viable sources of removal or control. And speaking of, I do believe that is a Rocket City that states that if there are 2 cores on this card, right, if you make the Nexus a level 2 Nexus, it states when your opponent draws outside of their draw step, they must discard a card, right? So at this point in time, the Netherworld Depths aren't necessarily plussing him any specific cards. They're now going like net even, but if he's able to summon a second Rocket City, then he's going -1 every time that he declares an attack. So that's a very aggressive option from the white player's side. He goes ahead and summons a Snowflaken. He still has the Otter and the Pegasion just kind of chillaxing. But even with just one card, with one Rocket City, it's still not terrible for the purple player, as you can just cycle the cards you don't want. Imagine every single card you played was a Dark World dealing, right? Every time he attacks, you just Dark World dealings, Dark World dealings, Dark World dealings, which, if for those Yu-Gi-Oh players, understand that that is not bad at all. Now he tosses it back to George's turn. And with that card in the burst zone, it's just going to be very difficult to ever push through George, but you kind of have to trigger it at some point, right? You have to make him use that shield, and then potentially the turn where he's vulnerable, go for that lethal. But how do you do that while not exposing yourself? It's going to be a tough one. We'll go ahead and see another Lancer. Lancer's going to just draw a card. Play, draw a card. Those cards usually do just see play in a lot of games. Any creature that states when summoned, draw a card always seem to have very high viability. Just a good vanilla spirit with a little bonus action effect. 2 cost, draw a card. Don't hate it. We also still have the ability to trigger our Purple Smoke Valley, that he's ever able to destroy any of the characters by reducing their core to 0. We will just also draw a card, which is nice. He's going to go ahead and place all his cores on his spirits. No reason not to. And then he's going to go ahead and summon the Earth Spider Demon. The Earth Spider Demon states that if the spirit has a soul core on it, select one of your opponent's spirits, remove a core from it, and place it into their reserve. So it's kind of like another Boculus lethalish combo. So he goes ahead and removes the Snowflaken with the spider, then declares an attack with the spider. Now that'll trigger his Netherworld Depths, which will then draw a card, discard a card, pitching a core theft at this point. He doesn't want to give Carlos too many cards, so he's been playing this game super duper slow, starving his opponent of cores, not letting him ramp off of like a big rush turn. He's going to go block here with the Pegasion. This will then trigger both of the Netherworld Depths, draw 2. And then I'm assuming he either pitches 1, it comes on the stack, or does he have to pitch 2? Let's go ahead and see how he does this. He's going to go ahead and pitch 1. Yeah, they're individual. So he's going to go ahead and draw 1, discard 1, draw 1, discard 1. So he went ahead and discarded there one of the cursed characters, the Dragon Naga Assassin. And then he's going to go ahead and seems to dump another Earth Spider. So nothing too impactful has been lost at this point in time. But by blocking there and exhausting, you just, I don't know, even though you did stop the attack, you did, in theory, just push your opponent to cycle through better cards. So we'll see what Carlos does here. He drops the big Pegasus, right? At least that's what I call him. He's an elk. So the Divine Moonsky Beast Fanage Elk. This is a very impactful card. The Fanage Elk is a card that states that if your opponent doesn't deal damage to you, it just burns them alive. Now, that card is super duper scary because if Carlos is able to attack right here and take a core, And if he has an Ice Shield in the burst, then the game is just necessarily over, right? Because when you declare any attack, you just Ice Shield it, and your opponent technically didn't deal damage to you, which then combos off the Elk, burning them on the final core, which then just ends the game. And they are kind of forced to attack you, and it kind of just checks you. It's like you're forced to attack to deal me damage so that you don't trigger the Elk. But if you don't trigger the Elk with an Ice Shield, then you lose the game. But you do have to have your opponent at 1 to do that. And since George probably has an Ice Shield, that may not be the way. I think he did sack the Otter for the Elk here, but this is starting to get towards the late game. And late game versus purple, you do have cards that are just going to be able to remove cores from the Elk, which will not let it trigger its end of opponent's turn effect. Speaking of, George just jams what seems to be the Cursed Dragon. Now, the Cursed Dragon, one of my favorite cards, absolutely beautiful. It just goes ahead and removes a core from your opponent's characters, and then by removing it, you go ahead and basically delete it in a certain way. There's the combo with the Cursed Dragon plus the Baculus. Baculus comes down and removes all but 1 core, and then the Infernal Dragon states that when summoned, remove 1 core from each of your opponent's spirits, and then forget the rest of the effect. That's all you need to know. He comes down and just kind of removes the final piece of the puzzle. A pseudo board wipe. It's a lot of cores to get done, but we've worked to get these cores. Now we're going to go ahead and swing with the Cursed Dragon. That's going to go ahead and trigger the next Netherworld Depths. Draw a card, discard a card, draw a card, discard a card. And then I'm going to draw a card and discard a card. Oh, and it wasn't Ice Shield. It was actually, it seems to be a Dream Bomb. Man, seeing it upside down has kind of flipped my ability to... Yeah, it has to be a Dream Bomb. So Dream Bomb's going to go ahead and bounce a card here, select your opponent's nexuses, and return it to their hand. And then if you just pay the effect, the full effect, you can return one of their spirits as well. So he's going to go ahead and bounce the Netherworld Depths, and then bounce one of the Lancers, it seems. But since this is happening during the damage step, now he has an exhausted character. Ooh, and we're going to see a second Rocket City, which is kind of interesting. But it may be too late for these Rocket Cities to come down, because now we're getting to the point where George has just ramped so much and has so many cards in hand that he can just kind of go for it and not care. But we will see another Bullet Ray come down, as well as... Cannot tell what that card is. And we're going to go ahead and declare an attack here. Force. That's going to trigger the Netherworld Depths. Draw a card, discard a card. He also did draw a card off the Purple Smoke Valley from the Cursed Dragon, I believe. And then he's going to just go ahead and go back to his turn. He's going to pop that by using the Dark World 7. Draw a card. And let's do some gaming here. Let's see if we can just lethal on this turn. The Rocket Cities do add a lot of pressure, because now all those cards you did draw and all that advantage that you did gain, it's going to have to slowly get removed. Now we're going to see a card that it looks absolutely beautiful, but I don't really see a lot of gameplay. We're going to see Dark King Snake Pendacles come down. Now Pendacles has a 3-pronged effect. He is a 4-cost spirit because he has 3 pips and a 7-cost. That states select over your opponent's spirits, remove all but 1 core from it, and place them into their reserve. Now if he is a 2 to 3, if he's a level 2 or a 3, he gains when this spirit attacks. Select over your opponent's spirits, remove a core from it, and place it into their trash. So just another form of core control, and that's going to come down and remove the core from the Bullet Ray, put it into the trash, and then he's going to basically, in effect, destroy. Well, he already destroyed the Bullet Ray with the Dark World 7, but he's going to remove some cores from the other character that's there, and then the Infernal Dragon can then possibly take care of it. When this spirit attacks, like one of your opponent's spirits, remove all but 1 core from it and place them into the reserve. So he's just, again, controlling the cores, making so that his characters don't have like bonus effects. The nice part is it does go to the reserve, so if he does have Ice Shields or things along those nature, he's going to have a bad time. So swing with the Pendacles. Pendacles is going to go ahead and remove a core from it and put it into the trash, which will, in effect, destroy the spirit. He will then pitch a card to do this. Swing, pitch a card. Yeah, he's going to swing with the Dark World 7. Swing, and swing for game. It's regain. It's not Ice Shield. So he didn't have the Ice Shield to counter this turn. And just like I said, he did have to, in a sense, trigger George's Ice Shield to even have a chance. But the fact that purple has such powerful core control, and they can come down and say your Elk is no longer effective as a level 3, is really, really powerful. So once again, goes to George on this matchup, and we'll see you guys on the next one. Later.